Hey friends, welcome back. So, Peter Jackson, he did the movies The Lord of the Rings a number of years ago, and he did a pretty good job, I guess. Um, Better than I could do in his place, obviously. But there was a few things that he didn't do that I think were huge points that he missed. And one of the biggest is, well, there's two. One is Tom Bombadil, and I'll talk about Tom Bombadil in a future video. But the other one was actually the second last chapter from the book was just omitted completely. And the second last chapter of the book was called The Scouring of the Shire. So basically what had happened is that after Sauron was defeated and evil's defeated, the hobbits are coming back. So you got Sam and Frodo, Merry and Pippin, and they're looking forward to seeing the Shire, right? And so they're coming back into the Shire, and oh my God, the Shire has been overrun with these bandits. Now, a bit of backstory first. So back a couple of books ago, Merry and Pippin were with the Ents, and there was Treebeard, and they're drinking this Ent draft, and they also met Quickbeam. Quickbeam also wasn't in the movies, but Quickbeam was this impetuous Ent, and very almost, well, he wasn't Hobbit-like, but of all of the Ents in history, he was the most similar-ish, because at one time, he actually answered a question that was being asked to him, and he answered it before it was done being asked. So these Ents are like, this guy is crazy. He's answering all sorts of questions, before they're even finished being asked. What a guy! What an impatient, crazy Ent. And there's also a bit about these Ent wives who were like missing for 1,000 years. They're still gone. No one knows where they are. Also wasn't in the movies. Which is sad because it really was a lot of depth and soul that was missing. So anyways, so Merry and Pippin, they're drinking this Ent draft. They actually grow like inches tall. They become the tallest hobbits who've ever lived. And then their hair gets curly and thick, and they're stronger. I mean, they're still hobbits, but they're almost like a small human-sized finally. So big they can actually ride a horse, and no one except Brandibus Took ever could have ridden a horse ever before. So this is a pretty big deal, and so that's kind of what's going on. And also after this had happened, you have Pippin, okay, and Pippin, what does he do? He's in Midas Tirith. He's a member of the guards of the Citadel. So that's a pretty big deal. Wearing the plate armor there, and you've got Merry, our good friend Merry. He rode with the Riders of Rohan. He stabbed the damn leader of the Nazgul right in the leg. So that's a pretty serious thing for a hobbit to do. So these hobbits have gone through an epic journey where they've faced death. They've done deeds, or at least tried to do deeds that no one would ever assume a hobbit could do. And so they come back to the Shire now, and they're looking forward to rest and to seeing their friends and family. And there's just these ruffians. It's not even like an actual army that's taken over. It's basically some hooligans. I mean, technically it's Sauron and Wormtongue, but we won't get into that. But just basically just a ragtag group of misfits, and so they're looking around like, what's going on? How come these hobbits just let these people take over like this? This is crazy. And the hobbits of the Shire are just like, man, like what are we gonna do? These guys are too much for us. We just, what else can we do but just sit here and starve? We don't have any beer anymore. We're half starving. This is terrible. And so, Merry and Pippin and Sam and Frodo were like, well, this is we're not gonna stand for this. And so they raise the Shire up, and they just take the Shire, and they go after these people, and then they scour the Shire. Hence the title. And after this is done, Merry and Pippin especially, they were like the heroes of the Shire because, oh my God, like they're visually bigger and larger than life than they ever were before. and they're wearing plate armor, small plate armor, but plate armor, and so it's a big deal. And so then, for the foreseeable future, anyways, before they settle down, Merry and Pippin are riding on horses through the Shire, playing their mandolins and laughing and singing songs, and they're rock stars, right? They're the goddamn rock stars, and this is all missing, and it's a tragedy that it's missing, because this is one of the best examples that I can point to. If someone's talking about writing and they say, well, you should show, not tell. Well, what better way to show a character's growth and personal growth than to show how, after this whole journey, they came back, and how they then reacted to a challenge was completely different than the rest of the hobbits. And the only reason why they did act like this was because they were pushed. And there's a tremendous lesson there that growth happens when you're pushed, and when you're in uncomfortable places, and when you think that you can't do something but you're trying anyways, and you muck your way through. You grow as a human being. And so that's a shame that was missing from the movies. B, one of my most favorite chapters in a book. It's easy to overlook, but it's actually tremendously deep in terms of the message. And I think it's also quite true to life, in that, the harder your trials and tribulations, to borrow a cliched phrase, is, and if you can overcome that, you'll always look back and notice how much you've grown as a human being and how much more you can take on in the future. So that was just my thoughts about that chapter of Lord of the Rings and why it's a shame it's not in the movies. Anyway, have a good night. Peace.